most part, our training in the inside, we would always spar each other beginning, right? We used to get there like maybe 30 minutes to an hour before we started working, and we used to warm up like that. But we always stayed on cue. We always stayed on point. We were always playing around with it to the point, when the real stuff happened, we got busy.
Right? We worked at a Korean club that I had picked up called Nick's. Nick's had a problem with their Korean gang.
Before you forget, make sure you like and hit that subscribe button for more.
The owner had told me it was called KP, which stood for Korean Power. And he had even said, ashamedly, that he was once a boss of KP. And I was like, well, then why are they messing around here in your club? He never answered me. But he used to tell me how terrible it was. They'd come in, they'd beat up the patrons, they'd rob the patrons, all kinds of stuff. That stopped real quick. That stopped real quick. We had a couple of tangles with them, and they didn't last very long.
Nope.
Yeah. And there'd be a bunch of them, and the owner wanted them in because they would rent rooms, karaoke rooms, and and the way it worked in Korean clubs, it wasn't like you buy a drink, you pay for a drink. If you're at a table, depending on how many of you there are, or if there's if they rent a room, there's a minimum purchase. You rent a room, it could be $800, and you could have upwards of, let's say, 7 people in there, 8 people, 9 people. And these guys, the KP guys, like a lot of gang members or whatever, they were drug dealers. They had money, so they would do that, and
they love to buy their Johnny Walker Black.
Yep.
Yes, sir. That's right.
Don't forget the milk.
And
Johnny
the milk to
Walker
coat their
Black.
stomachs.
Because the club you're talking about was in Midtown in Koreatown, right?
Right. It was on 32nd between 5th and Madison.
Yeah, I worked for that owner. I was his personal bodyguard. I know who you're talking about. And matter of fact, I was telling Jacob the story, if you remember, Jacob, the other day. I was telling you. Or was it you? I think I was telling you, but I'll tell you later. It wasn't a good story. But I worked for him and I bodyguarded him for a while. And he had a couple of clubs. But all they would order, not all I would remember them ordering, was Johnny Walker Black. They used to order that by the tons, man. Yep. And I mean, it was like $300-$400 a bottle.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll never forget that. Yeah. Actually, the owner's name was John. I can say his name because I don't think he's around anymore. But his name was John.
Yeah, I think it's a different club owner. But because ours, you went into a building all the way in the back, and then you rode the elevator up to the 3rd floor.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Yeah. Now it might not have been the same owner, but he was an owner. He was a main owner too. Okay. So I know what building you're talking about because they had a problem, and that's why they hired me because they one thing about when you worked for the Korean clubs, they really respected people of other colors. They looked at them like they were really tough.
Yes.
And they would hire you. They hired non-Koreans to watch over them. Yes. And that's when the trouble started to dwindle, And not that I know everything, but I do know about that because I remember working for him. I worked for him for about, matter of fact, his cousin was the owner of the club Cello World. Remember the club Cello World? Glenn, you worked there with me about 2 or 3 times.
The name is familiar, but there have been so many clubs. It's hard to remember everything.
But it was on 38th Street between 9th and 10th Avenue. And matter of fact, there's a lot of incidences there. But when we did work there about 2 or 3 times together, you didn't work for me. You just came. And you were working for somebody, but you were bodyguarding him. I forgot who it was.
It might have been a promoter because I did a lot of that.
It was a promoter. Yeah. But this is all good, guys. Alex, it was an honor having you, man.
Absolutely, man. It's a pleasure. Yeah. Y'all brought back some serious memories.
That's what it's all
Alex,
about.
anything you want to throw in before we get cooking here? Anything else you want to throw in?
No, I mean, not necessarily. I mean, it's just that, I would like to see a reunion, with some of the guys that, we ran with and stuff like that. That would be something to see, man. To see like old folks that we used to work with and stuff like that, to see, who's still around, who's still doing it, who's not doing it. That'd be interesting.
Do a whole edition on just this subject.
Yeah,
We
that would be great.
whole edition on this.
Right.
You know,
Because
that
there's a
that
lot
would
of
bring
people
people
that
together.
there's a lot of people that a lot of people don't know about that, you know.
Right.
They ran
Right.
between, you know, the tournament circuit, and they ended up, you know, bouncing, and you know that's where they stayed.
Right. And sadly, there are still guys doing the same thing and making that same little bit of money.
That's unfortunate, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we used to call it back in the days that I'm not making that 1989 money. At least that's when I started. We used to make like $80
Yeah,
back. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Right.
people are still working for that, man. It's a shame.
And it's a shame. And I walk by all the time, down by Delancey Street, Essex Street. They got like so many clubs there and lounges. And I walk by and I look at those guys. They'll look at me, and one or two of them may remember me, but they're much younger than us.
Right.
And I just look at them and I just shake my head and I say to myself, man, I wouldn't want to be you tonight for nothing in this world, because I know you're not going to be happy when you get that paycheck.
Yep.
that $100 that I was making in 1981, you still getting that, you know?
Right.
And putting your life on the line.
You know, with the you know, having owning a security company, it is difficult because the owners don't want to pay the extra cost. You know, you as a security company owner, you still have insurance, overhead, et cetera, et cetera. People think, oh, insurance, you know, what is that? 30 grand? No, it's it's over 100 grand. If you have a real company, you're paying over. I was paying like $120,000 a year every year for like 10 years for insurance, and people don't understand that. That's before I get a nickel of profit.
Yep.
You know, so you're paying the guys what you can pay them, and regardless of some like some of these guys have got some really good, you know, have real years of experience, but that doesn't make them good bouncers either. Whether they're martial artists or not, it doesn't make them good bouncers. It just means that they've been around a long time.
Right.
And it's difficult to give someone a lot more money when, you know, you're fighting with the owners for, you know, to make a profit.
Right.
So it is difficult.
Yeah. I didn't start with my company. I didn't start having insurance until I found out we needed insurance. That was like 20 years in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started getting out.
Right.
When we had Royal Protection, I got out, but then we started strictly bodyguard agency in 1981. And that went on until 2008. And then we closed it down. And you know how much it costs to have a strictly bodyguard agency, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like 5 times what you're talking.
Right.
Just for if you have a high class security company that's strictly bodyguarding, you're paying close to $1 million. I said, I'm done. I said, I'm done. Yeah.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, and people don't understand it. And unfortunately, the bouncers that work for you don't understand it either. Yeah. And of course, they think, oh, you're keeping all the money. Really? How much money have you put into anything or started a business? The one thing I always say about owning a security business is that everybody that I've worked with over the years all had the same exact opportunity I did to make themselves a boss, to step up, to learn, to do this, pardon me, and or to open a company.
Yeah.
The only thing most people do is they own a business card. And I get it. I understand, but they don't own a real company. They have no insurance. They have no bonding. They don't have anything. You know, your business card is a hustle, start and finish. That's all it is. And it's difficult, regardless of what you're doing. I mean, it's very difficult to deal with the night clubbing.